Alan, the alien who defied all odds, survived when no one else could, fought 3 Viltrumites and living to tell the tale was no small feat. Omni-Man, a legend amongst his people, a war hero, a ruthless warrior, a conqueror, separate they are forced to be reckoned with, but together, they're... I think this is the first time we see Ray in normal clothes, and you know, as much as I rock with Rex, I'd refuse to go anywhere public with this guy. People who grab stuff off the shelves and start eating out the box, why? They'll be like, yeah, I'm still gonna pay for it, bro, you was not that hungry. Matter of fact, you're a stranger for the rest of the store trip. The only thing that's okay to eat before buying is like grapes, berries, stuff like that. You gotta taste test those first, cause no way I'ma go home with a pack of grapes that taste like Sour Patch Kids. But what is Ray trying to cook up with these ingredients? Got some cheddar cheese. Don't know if that's a cucumber or a zucchini. We're taking a gamble with that one. A can of mystery and whatever this is supposed to be. This concoction you're planning on brewing, just keep it away from me. And I don't blame Rex. He was like, oh, so you know how to cook?
No.
That's all he needed to hear. The man thought he was going to dine on a foreign cuisine, but now it all makes sense. She went on Google, typed in ingredients, and that's it. Went to images and started throwing everything she's seen in the basket. Now, this monster pulling up really just saved the day. The team doesn't have to consume the poison she was creating. And speaking of the team, Mark pulled up to ask Rudy about the drone. He did everything he can, but there's no trace back to who did it. So now, this monster pulling up really just saved the day. The team doesn't have to consume the poison she was creating. And speaking of the team, Mark pulled up to ask Rudy about the drone. He did everything he can, but there's no trace back to who did it. So Mark was like, oh, I know who did this. Went straight to Cecil. And I don't care what no one tells me, Cecil is the coldest in the show. He knows damn well those robots not holding Mark down. But even so, he gotta keep up the image. He can be surrounded by 10 Viltrumites and he's still gonna talk like he can beat their ass. If we wanted to spy on you, you never know it. Oh, don't let us keep you. Nah, bro, he talks as if he can back up what he's saying. And your teleports haven't been on point since Omni-Man was here. He couldn't land a finger on you, but Mark has had his hand around your neck twice now. So then we see Mark out with Eve, and this is so refreshing. Amber would have gave Mark the meanest stank face for being 30 seconds late. Superheroes need to make dating other superheroes a standard, because when stuff like this happens, a random portal opening beside you, you don't have to explain. Both parties understand. So these two are back, the ones who stole the Declaration of Independence, and now they're asking for Mark's help. And I see why Cecil called them robots. Mark, calm down. They said millions of lives are at stake and you still trying to walk them down. Like, let me explain. At a reasonable distance. So they tell him they need him to overthrow their king. He's the only one strong enough to do it. But Mark didn't give it a second thought. He just sat right back down until they forced him into the future timeline. He's already there, so he might as well help out, and I'm glad someone pointed this out.
Wow, you just have that on all the time?
Bro, I thought the same thing. You just gotta future timeline. He's already there, so he might as well help out, and I'm glad someone pointed this out.
Wow, you just have that on all the time?
Bro, I thought the same thing. You just gotta fold it in your back pocket or something. Then they tell us about their king. Once upon a time, he used to be a good ruler. Until he snapped. No one knows exactly why, but he just started forcing work camps, throwing people in jail, starting senseless wars. And if they resisted, he personally took it upon himself to take them down. And that's when the rebellion was born. I mean, I respect it, but I don't think guns will work on a man who can single-handedly nuke cities just cause he felt like it. Only one had a gun actually, the other two had swords. And turns out these two just casually made a time machine. You know, it was a random Sunday night and they say, you know what? Let's build the thing that scientists have been struggling for decades to make. No big deal. Just built it in a cave with a box of scraps. And Mark made sure to ask if it was a Viltrumite. Might have had a whole change of heart if that was the case. Where did he get that from? Was it just lying around or looked away for 1 second and now he got an AR in his hand? So the plan was to get arrested because that's the fastest way to get to the king. And when we do, it was immortal. Long ass beard and still can't grow a mustache. Tragic. But things get a little interesting. We find out that this timeline's Mark left everything to Immortal. Only reason he became this timer was to get him to come back. Now, as much shit we give Immortal, I have to admit his life is by far the hardest. This man has no choice but to live for centuries. He outlives everyone he loves. he became this tyrant was to get him to come back. Now, as much shit we give Immortal, I have to admit his life is by far the hardest. This man has no choice but to live for centuries. He outlives everyone he loves. It's a miracle he lasted even for this long. And it's kind of sad how he did all this just so he can die. Mark was the only one strong enough to kill him. Now, knowing Mark, he wasn't gonna do it. He refused immediately. He was like, just quit being king if you don't want to be king. But it's more to it than that. He's mentally fried. Being a tyrant just gives him a reason to die. And when they were fighting, Mark was like, bro, just throw yourself into the sun. That was kind of crazy. But Immortal has too much pride to do that. That's a coward's way out, he said. And when these two walked in, he said, I bet. You think I'm joking? Look at what you made me. You know, it took a slight beating, but he finally ended his misery. And with his death, the robots automatically deactivated, so the people are now safe. He went back to his timeline, was feeling a little down, was a little blue, spirits not so high, but if you have an Eve with you, gonna be right back to smiling. So they continued their date, did what they did, went back to the crib and also did what they did. And while this was going on, it's about time Alan made a move. Nolan was about to get executed, so he had to work fast. And they really got him back to full health just to beat him to death. Meanwhile, Alan is breaking out all the other inmates so they can join in. I thought this was a good plan too. Until they all started dropping, one by one. Next wave runs in just for the same fate to be dealt to them. So then Alan sees the big cell. And every Viltrumite might have this skill unlocked, the last second weave. Anissa did it and now this guy. And this whole time I was watching, I was like, no way. This unknown Viltrumite is not putting the beats on you like this. So this is when Nolan finally lets go of Viltrum. He's gonna start living for himself and the people he cares about. And whoever gets in the way of that is gonna find out real quick. Look at the form on that. Low to the ground, excellent dodge out of you. Both turns around, he sees that punch coming, dodges the uppercut, get the shit out of my face. But the defense is on 10, they're going dodge for dodge right now, pitch. Both ran in, both landed a punch. But I'ma just say Nolan is out of shape. He hasn't fought in a while, is why he lost that. We can agree to that, right? But then Alan tagged himself back in. One punch laid him out. Nolan must have weakened him, right? Right, guys? Right? That guy wasn't done though. So Alan decided to break the wall, having everyone sucked into space. Not gonna lie, being an alien and not being able to breathe in space. And I'm not talking about the aliens that look like humans. I'm talking about the chopped aliens. If you're a chopped alien, like look at this nigga. Breathing in space should be a default setting. Anyways, we see Nolan grab this guy and I bet Alan was waiting to catch a Viltrumite like this. After what they did to him, he wanted some type of revenge. Don't matter who it was, as long as you're a Viltrumite, he's satisfied. Got like 5 solid hits him before he broke free. Grabs his legs, threw him away. He flies back in. Nolan sees the window. Weave. Yeah, you're doomed, buddy. That's the way to go out. And who knows where Battle Beast went. He's somewhere out there enjoying himself right now. But yeah, job well done. We also find out Alan was faking that beating he was out there enjoying himself right now. But yeah, job well done. We also find out Alan was faking that beating he was getting earlier, had to do something for Nolan to get up. But Alan was trying to dip. He didn't want to deal with any reinforcements showing up. That won't be happening. What? They don't know what just happened? Oh, they do, but they won't be sending anyone. There are fewer than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left. This is the Empire's most closely guarded secret. It's also why we can beat him. Nolan has officially joined the team. But not gonna lie, Viltrum sold. Y'all know your numbers are dwindling and you're not doing something about it. If y'all don't take 25 of those 50 people and, you know, repopulate, y'all live for thousands of years. You can take a cool 20 to raise a child. That's nothing to you. And if you're worried about keeping control, you're good. Unless there's a whole species just like Battle Beast, you have nothing to worry about. Nobody's gonna test you, I promise. So we cut back to the fam real quick and damn, Debbie, you just put at least 2,000 calories on a little boy's plate. But not gonna lie, Oliver is growing on me. He heard Mark and Eve last night and did not hesitate to make his thoughts known.
Mark wasn't sleeping. He and Eve had a sleepover.
But this is when Mark told Debbie about moving out. And he was dead serious to the point where they started a business name and this has to be another standard for superheroes. I understand y'all do this from the kindness of your heart, but it won't hurt to get a little paycheck. Mark just became the personal bodyguard for this prison. Yo, Spider-Man, take notes. It hurts my soul every time you can't make those rent payments. But now we see tie-in. And personal bodyguard for this prison. Yo, Spider-Man, take notes. It hurts my soul every time you can't make those rent payments. But now we see Tyan. And if you remember, he was told to get Multi-Paw out of jail, which, you know, failed. So he had to take matters into his own hands. This man duped himself enough to break through prison walls. And honestly, even though him and Kate have the same powers, he doesn't look nowhere near as sorry. Now, I won't lie, Kate does have her moments, but she's not consistent. One fight, she's doing excellent combos, but the next, she's feeding the enemy score streaks. But then Paul runs for the exit, but ends up getting a collar on his neck. And the reason I didn't question this earlier is because I just assumed something like this didn't exist. Y'all can suppress powers this whole time. I would have put this on him the millisecond he stepped foot in this building. But later on, he's talking with Kate when they mention their father. This man went from raising 2 kids to 27. I can see why he lost it. After that is when they were taken to be trained. Until one night, Paul said he's not doing this no more and just left. He wanted Kate to go with him, but obviously she didn't. All she wants to do now is give him a way out. But once you step foot on the path Paul has chosen, it's not easy making your way back. And then we see the leader of the order complaining about getting Multi-Paw back, and Tyan pretty much said, if I had to sum it up, fuck off. Now, the problem with living a life like this is having a family. The main villain will always find the people you care about without fail. He didn't do anything to them, but he just made sure that you know that he knows. Everything was fine though. Daughter was talking about she had a good day at school, got an A on the math test. Didn't do anything to them, but he just made sure that you know that he knows. Everything was fine though. Daughter was talking about she had a good day at school, got an A on the math test. Oh, and she sold all her Girl Scout cookies.
A tiny old man with a metal mouth bottom.
That right there is when he knew he had to make a move. First thing he did was meet up with Machine Head, his former boss. And Tyan is smart. He didn't get his position by being the strongest. And I think that's why he's here. To remind Machine Head how he outsmarted him, how he took his spot, rile him up a little bit so he can be useful later. Then a few days pass, he makes his way back to the prison, not with the plan of breaking out Paul or Machine Head, but with having a talk with Mark. Tyan was like, yeah, I know the last time we saw each other, things ain't end too well, but we gotta talk. A lot of people will die.
This is still some bullshit.
Yo, I was dying when I saw this shit. But he was telling Mark, yeah, bet you don't recognize this place, huh? It used to be a war zone until I stepped in. No more murders, no more crime. Nobody's scared to actually live here. But the problem with Mark is that he plays strictly by the book. He's seen how much of a difference Tyan made here. Tyan's whole character is that nothing is ever black and white. But Mark can't seem to grasp that. Yeah, he did crimes in the past. Yeah, he led you to getting one of the most vicious ass beatings of your entire life. But look what it resulted in. Safety. Not just for him, but for everyone who lives here. Best part though is when he escapes through the sewers and popped the Shadow Clone Jutsu.
We all look the same to you, hero?
See, that's the exact moment when Mark gave up. Yeah, he could probably check under everyone's hood, cause that's the exact moment when Mark gave up. Yeah, he could probably check under everyone's hood, cause super speed, right? But that's not a risk he's willing to take. He does that, the next day he gonna see headlines saying, breaking news. Invincible is a racist.
Your time is up. Where is my assassin?
Now imagine if he did have him. Would have broke the door for no reason. But Tyan standing his ground. He said, yeah, I don't got him. And what? Should have known. The guy has his initial on his shirt. Should have known the type of nigga he was. So old man proceeds to turn himself into a dragon, threw Tyan out the window, makes his way to the prison where Mark and Eve arrive on the scene, and peep the team attack. Yo, Eve will always have the coolest power. He swung her around, clocked him square in the jaw, but the combo isn't over. They both fly in with the Superman punch and I don't know, did they miss or was his head smacking into the wall, the punch landing? While all that was going on, Paul was able to duplicate out the collar. But Eve came through and made easy work of everyone. Now Paul put up a good resistance, but her power is simply unfair. He did have a clone out somewhere, so that prison meant nothing. Don't know when he did that. But then we cut back to Mark losing again. You hold back way too much. This dragon should not have landed as many hits as he did. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. This was a great play. Breaking the ground, flew up into the air, and for a man who doesn't want to kill, now it's for damn sure a killing blow. He has no idea their body is separate. Then we cut to Machine Head, and this man could have